Alright, midday 3 here. I'm going to try out something a little unique. This is the Marin Mount Vision. It's a 150 travel bike, 27.5. That's carbon frame, so it should be pretty light, but you can see the interesting linkage down here. Everyone thinks it's an e-bike, but it's not. It's got a kind of an interesting linkage there. So I'm going to try this guy, and I might swap it out for another one, which is a little bit shorter travel, and see how that rides. So I'm on a Marin, which is interesting because this company is headquartered in Petaluma, which is where I grew up. And then over here we've got the RA Warrior on the big travel transition. Patrol. Big old coil spring Fox suspension, so that's nice. These are 27.5s, yeah. So this is like your bike here, huh?
Yeah.
This is his setup, so I'm gonna go get these out there, do the route, and see what we think. Woo. I'm down to, so we'll do 2.5 hours. Still on the Marin Mount Vision 8. Really liking it so far. The rear end, they can't even feel it. It just makes it smooth. I'm liking this bike. Yeah, it works though. Yeah. You almost got to ride one. This is off on this transition. He's boogieing. Got those jumps coming up. So this thing flies. Yeah. All right. Got a thumbs up there.
Bothers me. This one actually might be with Canyon and Ibis.
It's a sweet looking bike too. Yeah, I don't know why, I just think coil springs make a bike look cool. So there's that transition in the front, Marin in the background with its kind of a swing arm suspension there. And I had a talk with the guy at the booth when I got back. Let's hear a little bit of what he had to say about it.
So what we do is when we get these shocks from the factory, they're tuned really, really soft, and there's almost no dampening. You can see there's no lockout switches. The reason you don't need a lockout switch is all that is done by the rear suspension. So basically, at the end of the day, what you get is a bike that can climb, super efficient. Most of your energy, more than any other rear suspension platform, is going to go directly into the drivetrain, propelling you forward. You're not going to be put it into the shock, pedal bobbing. You're not going to have to be flip levers to like stiffen up the rear as you're climbing. It gives you a super efficient climb, and then when you turn around and descend, it just goes full-blown 150, opens up front and back. And it just gives you the best of both worlds. So like all full suspension designs, the idea is you want a bike that is efficient on the uphill and wide open, just ripping fun on the downhill, right? And yeah, as far as we're concerned, this is the best full suspension platform on the market. We're one of 2 companies that utilize it. Polygon's the other. We use it on this Mount Vision, the 27.5. We also use it on the Wolfridge, the 29er. And yeah, personally, I own a Mount Vision 9, and 25 years of mountain biking, it's absolutely the best full suspension bike I've ever sat on in my life. So
right on. Yeah, I definitely noticed something different about it. I was like,
and one of the things it does too.
I was seated climbing most of the time, so it was just so comfortable. I was just doing it.
And so one of the things, and speaking to that comfort level, is because the shock is detuned so much, and there's almost no dampening in it. It gets really, really good, like we call it small bump compliance. So kind of as you're riding, it's eating up a lot of trail chatter, and then as soon as you start cranking down on it, all that power is going right into the drivetrain. The rear end stiffens up a little bit because it's not really taking the rider weight and pushing it into the shock. It's basically isolating your weight from the shock, propelling you forward, and that's kind of where the magic happens. So
yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Sweet,
that was
man.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, glad you're impressed.
All right, well, I didn't mean to turn that into a commercial or anything, but this bike is so focused on that funky rear linkage there, I figured we'd get a little more insight on it from the guys who know about it. So back on the trail here, One thing, well, let me talk about the things I did like first. Geometry was right on par with what you'd expect for a trail bike. Kind of a funny drawing there for their geometry, but 65-degree head tube and 75.3 seat tube angle. Made it handle pretty well. The one thing I didn't like, though, was this bike had giant tires on it. It had 2.6-inch wide tires. I think that made it slightly sluggish for me, a little bit more rotating mass there, so it made it a little heavier, but I mean the traction was outstanding, of course, but I think if I were to set it up, I'd want to go with like a 2.4. That seems to be a pretty good sized tire. This one had some giant motocross type tires on it. It's kind of hilarious. But back to the good stuff. So, of all of the 11 bikes I rode, I consider this one best rear suspension. It was just outstanding. Like you were saying, the small bump compliance was just fantastic. And I also think part of that may be because this is one of the longest travel bikes I rode during the event. There's only one that had a little bit longer travel than this one. This one is 150 rear, and most of the ones I rode had 130 or 140 millimeter rear suspension. So this one had a little bit more there to give, so that's partly, I think, why it felt pretty smooth. But I do know that a lot of that did have some pretty awesome small bump compliance, because when I'm riding on it, you just don't feel the little bumps that I felt on the other bikes. And this one just smoothed that. It was just, the rear suspension looks funky, but it's cool. You gotta give it a try if you have an opportunity to ride one. And at 30, I think 37.50 is where this one starts. The one I'm riding right here is the entry-level Mount Vision. Not a bad price point for a trail bike with 150 millimeters of travel. I mean, it's pretty good stuff. Let's see, what else can I say about this thing? It was surprisingly fun. I guess I didn't expect it because it looked heavy, so I was kind of getting in my head. But it rode great. I mean, it was a fun bike. I really enjoyed riding it. And if I had to choose between a trail bike, I think this would be on my list. There he goes on the transition.
Is that nice play?
So there's a couple of closing comments here. This bike exceeded my expectations when I got on it and rode it.
You want to do North 40 on that?
Looking at it, it looked kind of funky, but I like new and innovative things, so I gave it a shot, and it was awesome. Rear suspension was slick. It worked as designed. It was a cool bike. So that's about it as we ride back into the event center here one last time. Those are my thoughts on the Marin Mount Vision 8. Next up, I'm riding the Ibis Mojo HD5. This is the one bike I was saying that had more travel than the last one I rode. This is the longest travel bike I rode, and it's awesome, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and get out and enjoy your ride.